The Last Train. In the city of Eldridge, there was an old subway line that had been abandoned for decades. The tracks had been overgrown with weeds, and the stations were crumbling ruins, but on a stormy night in October, a rumor spread among the locals that a train had been seen running on the old line. One particularly stormy evening, a young woman named Clara found herself at the edge of the abandoned subway station. She had heard the stories and was intrigued. Despite the thunderstorm raging outside, she descended the rusted staircase into the darkness below. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. Clara's flashlight flickered as she made her way through the darkened tunnels. The walls were lined with faded advertisements and graffiti, and the only sound was the distant rumble of thunder. As she ventured deeper, she noticed a faint glow in the distance. The sound of a train whistle echoed through the tunnels. Clara quickened her pace, curiosity overcoming her fear. She reached a large, dusty platform where a dilapidated train stood, its once bright paint now peeling and rusted. The train doors creaked open as if inviting her inside. Clara hesitated for a moment, then stepped aboard. The interior was surprisingly well preserved, with plush seats and old-fashioned decor. She took a seat, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. The train lurched forward with a sudden jolt. Clara looked out the window to see the darkness of the tunnel stretching out before her. The train picked up speed, and she noticed that the landscape outside the window seemed strangely distorted, as though reality itself was warping. As the train raced through the tunnel, Clara began to see figures in the shadows, faint, ghostly shapes that moved with an unsettling grace. They were dressed in old-fashioned clothing and appeared to be watching her with hollow, unblinking eyes. A chill ran down Clara's spine. She tried to get up, but the seats seemed to hold her in place. The train's lights flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The figures grew closer, their faces twisted in silent screams. The train's whistle blew again, louder and more insistent. Clara could feel her heart pounding as the ghostly figures reached out toward her. In a panic, she grabbed the emergency brake, but nothing happened. The train continued to hurtle through the darkness. Finally, the train came to a screeching halt. The lights went out, plunging Clara into darkness. She could hear whispers and the rustling of unseen entities around her. She felt a cold hand brush against her shoulder. Desperate, she fumbled for her flashlight and turned it on. The beam revealed the train car was empty, except for the old-fashioned ticket booth in the corner, now covered in dust. A single ticket lay on the counter, with her name written on it in faded ink. Clara's breath caught in her throat. She turned back to the door, but it was locked tight. The train jolted again, and she felt a wave of dizziness. When she finally managed to open the door and step onto the platform, she found herself back at the abandoned station. The storm had cleared, and the station was silent and still. Clara stumbled out into the daylight, her mind reeling. She never spoke of what she had seen, but she was forever haunted by the whispers and the ghostly figures of the last train. Years later, the old subway line was officially closed off, but the stories persisted. The locals would tell of a mysterious train that appeared on stormy nights, carrying souls who had ventured too close to the abandoned tracks, only to be claimed by the shadows that lurked in the dark.